out from the dreaded Isla de Muerta.
Man, you can accept your father was a... And I say it's a very good thing I'm not piracy crew.
A gold coin falls into the mist and the universe wakes. Before the swords start singing, before the black pearl emerges like a shadow on the ocean. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl establishes a very basic but strong premise. In this narrative, the sea never gives back what it takes without demanding a price. A kid may be rescued from a shipwreck. A diamond can be held in secret. A pirate can smirk as if he owns all ... Yet somewhere a debt awaits its hour. Gore Verbinski's 2003 release might have merely been a terrific piece of entertainment inspired by a Disney ride. A ship, pirates, cannons, some duels, a family adventure with a lot of spectacle. But what makes it much more compelling today is the fact that it turns the picture of an amusement park into a real film classic. He blends pirate culture with fantasy, comedy, romance, and, most all, a curse that gives each scene the sense of a grim tale. It all starts in some sort of weird mist. A British ship cruises in the Caribbean. Young Elizabeth Swann looks out at the ocean from a board. She's not old enough to grasp all the norms of the society she's living in. Yet she's already attracted to what this civilization prohibits. To the grown-ups around her, pirates are criminals, monsters, guys to be hanged. They are a mystery to Elizabeth as well. Something terrifying, definitely, but that shines on the imagination. And that's where the film initially sets its trap. It doesn't merely force us to pick between order and chaos. He teaches us that order may be suffocating, that chaos can be attractive, and that in this universe freedom is never pure. A little youngster in the water during an unseen attack. His name is Will Turner. He's comatose, apparently the solitary survivor of a calamity, whose extent no one yet realizes. Elizabeth sees a gold medallion around his neck, a pirate insignia. On this medallion, she knows right away how dangerous it is, since if the cops see it, they could think Will is a pirate, so she takes it. It looks an innocent gesture, a loving one. One youngster watches over another, but in a picture about debts and secrets, no item of stolen fate is quiet. This medallion is the first closed chest in history. Elizabeth does not understand what that implies. Will doesn't realize what he's missing. Adults do not know what they have not seen. And the sea remembers, a few years later. Colonial stiffness in all its glory is Port Royal. White barriers, ranks, regulations, rituals, uniforms. Elizabeth is a young lady now, daughter of Governor Weatherby Swann. She lives in a world that provides her luxury, status, social standing, but also that wants to turn her into a decorative item. Even her torso is wrapped in a clothing that is too tight, a corset that physically keeps her from breathing. This is not simply funny. It foreshadows all of Elizabeth's strife. From a world of respect, safety, and good behavior, she talks, but that world doesn't truly hear her. He clothes her, he sets her, he picks her. He wants to worship her, not comprehend her. Will Turner grew raised in another prison with her. He was a blacksmith, a man of ability and discipline and great dignity. Orlando Bloom lends him an almost archaic uprightness, as if he is a fresh hero yet to find the battleground on which to establish his value. Will loves Elizabeth, but they are separated from each other because they are in different socio-economic levels. He makes swords for great men. He knows weaponry better than they do, but he is in the shadows. His skill has not yet entitled him to be considered equal. This conflict is highlighted in the promotion of Commodore James Norrington. Norrington is elegance itself, order made most graceful, clean, brave, respectable, yet a prisoner of his own class. He's not a ludicrous villain. He's even serious in his approach to love Elizabeth, but his offer of marriage seems to be more a continuation of the social order than a real meeting of two persons. All appears to be settled, formal, just right, and that is what makes the scene so claustrophobic. Then Elizabeth goes down. But this moment matters, because suddenly the sea talks again. Elizabeth drops from the top of the rampart and enters the realm of consequences, leaving the world of the rules behind. The pendant she wears transmits a peculiar signal underwater, as if the gold had finally figured out where it was, as if an age-old power, 4 years in sleep, had just been wait to hear its name. That's when Jack Sparrow shows up in the movie. Not a conventional hero, not like a great leader that a fleet doth bear. He comes in on a little sinking boat, to the top of the mast, as if he were practically saluting the port, and his arrival seemed victorious. The movie sets up Jack Sparrow as both a phony and a legend within seconds. He loses his ship, but saves his theatrical dignity. He has next to nothing, yet plays like he owns the place. He lies with a natural beauty that makes lying a way of survival. Johnny Depp doesn't play the traditional pirate here. He cuts an unexpected, fluid, bright figure, at times seeming intoxicated, but always more coherent than he pretends. Jack seems to drift through the environment, yet his eyes are always calculating alternative escapes. His ridiculousness lasts only long enough to allow his foes to misjudge him. Then he acts at the exact moment when everyone else is looking away. You can see that in his first real act in the tale. When Elizabeth falls into the sea, it is Jack who dives in to save her, not Norrington, not the troops. The wanted pirate is doing a show in front of the law enforcement agents, and the picture does not give a high moral. He lets the picture do the talking. The man society wants to hang has just saved the woman society claims to protect. But Jack does not get a prize. Elizabeth is rescued, and his identity is revealed. The pirate mark, the personal effects, the rifle with one round, all lead to him. And suddenly, the scenario is a game of masks. Jack keeps Elizabeth captive for a few moments, not only because, but because the world offers him no better negotiating chip. Survival for him, a matter of staging. He turns a spectacle of every peril, a distraction of every weakness. What is surprising is that the film does not try to make Jack look totally virtuous, cowardly, opportunistic, egotistical. But he has one thing which most respectable persons have not yet got: a thorough knowledge of liberty. He realizes rules are not always correct. He understands jails can have golden walls. He also understands that a name, a reputation, a legend may be a shield when you have no more army. Then Will Turner comes across him. Their combat at the forge is much more than a sword fight. It's a marriage of two kinds of intellect. Will is exact, technical, honest. Jack is on the go, filthy, innovative, tough to nail down. Will learn the sword like a craftsman learns his tool. Jack handles it like a guy who's seen too many betrayals to believe in the rules of a fair combat. The scenario is effective since it presents both guys without excessive explanation, and displays Will's competence, his dissatisfaction, his latent nobility. Jack tests, tempts, evades, appraises. This young blacksmith soon proves no hindrance to him. Jack does not know the complete truth about his blood yet. There is something beneficial in Will. And at the heart of that fact is a name Will bears. Not comprehending its weight, Turner. The film still maintains the mystery, yet has already assembled all the elements. The medal, the shipwrecked man, the pirate ship visible in the fog, Jack looking for a boat, Will who denies his heritage, Elizabeth, who carries an item around her neck that isn't actually hers. Everything still seems like a mess, but the curse is already taking effect. Jack is captured and Port Royal feels they have the turmoil under control. The pirate is in jail. Elizabeth had gone back to her own. Norrington and the army have re-established the semblance of power. But it's the illusion that adventure movie loves. The powerful thinking the doors are closed. The true threat coming out of the water. Darkness descends on Port Royal, and the film changes texture along with it. Piracy may still have something nearly beautiful about it till now. A child's song, a dazzling medallion, an eccentric commander, an artful duel. But when the Black Pearl approaches, the experience becomes a haunting. This ship is not like any other enemy ship. It arrives like a rumor fulfilled, silent, dark and vast, heaped with ancient violence. The city is torn by the guns. The flames are going up. The warriors are downhearted, and the civilians run. A wall is little help for Port Royal, emblem of order and imperial might. When terror rises from the river, this is one of the film's great qualities, knowing how to go from laughter to threat without losing its equilibrium. Minutes before, Jack Sparrow had been smiling folks with his ridiculous bravado. Now pirates enter residences, pillage, hunt, destroy. The globe is the same, but the nighttime has eaten the lightness. Elizabeth suddenly realizes that the medallion is not a keepsake. It was a phone call. The pirates are not only out to seize Port Royal, they are seeking for a certain thing. They scent the gold. They stalk the cursed coin as hunting hounds stalk a trail of blood. And when they get to Elizabeth, she tries all she knows about pirate codes. She calls for a talk. This little detail reveals that she is intelligent. She's not just a damsel in distress. She has read, seen, dreamed, remembered. Now the only way to survive is the world they sought to deny her. But she also commits a fatal error. She identifies herself as Turner to conceal her identity and her status. At this time, unwittingly, Elizabeth tells the pirates what they want to hear. And it's not simply because they want gold, but the name Turner held the possibility of an end to their agony. Elizabeth's falsehood, flung forth to protect herself, is a hazardous key in a lock she cannot see. She ultimately encounters Captain Hector Barbossa arriving on the Black Pearl. Geoffrey Rush portrays Barbossa as a nightmarish pirate, but also as a guy who relishes every syllable. He had the grace of the old stories, all rotted away. He may provide a grin, address, talk nearly sweetly, then show a cold brutality. Where Jack turns danger into moving humor, Barbossa turns comedy into a menace. He likes formula, rituals, artifacts, the laws of the pirate code, but always to his own advantage. And that's when the movie sets up its huge fantasy surprise. Barbossa and his men are no ordinary hungry pirates. They are trapped by a curse. They stole an Aztec treasure, accursed gold, and this gold doomed them to an impossible existence. They can no longer experience warmth, taste, happiness, joy. They feed, but are not satisfied. They drink and drink and drink. They make money but can't enjoy it. All of them are skeletons, neither living nor dead, always with their avarice, which is their eternal punishment, as the moon shows. This notion adds a surprising dimension to the film. The curse is not merely a punishment for theft. It penalizes the limitless desire. Barbossa has Black Pearl, a scary crew, valuables, a reputation. But he can no longer just have an apple. He has taken all a pirate could possibly want, and lost the entire feeling of being alive. Meanwhile, Jack Sparrow is imprisoned in Port Royal, but his thoughts have already escaped. He knows the Black Pearl is back. He knows this ship's captain is Barbossa, and above all he realizes that this attack is not an accident. The Black Pearl is more than a famous ship to Jack. It's a personal sore, a kingdom taken, stolen freedom. Will, for his part, still knows only one thing. Elizabeth has been kidnapped, and no one around him is willing to move fast enough. Authorities think, plan, act. For the first time, Will believes that the order he admired may become a lethal jail when every minute matters. He seeks out the one individual who can think like the pirates, Jack Sparrow warned. In this improbable union of an honorable blacksmith and a doomed captain, the film finally sets out on its real adventure. To save Elizabeth, Will must face what he loathes. To get the Black Pearl back, Jack will have to exploit this young man who doesn't know what he's worth. And above them, like a black sail unfurled in the night, the curse waits for the last drop of blood that may shatter it. Will Turner has an unwelcome fact to face. To save Elizabeth, he needs the help of a pirate. This is not merely a practical choice. Jack Sparrow is everything they trained him to despise in their society. A scoundrel, a cheat, a dishonorable individual. Will still believes in the value of a man, his word, his loyalty, his honesty. Jack, meanwhile, tends to judge a man's worth by his ability to withstand closed doors. But Elizabeth is in the clutches of the Black Pearl, and this urgency dissolves the finer ideals. The troops of Port Royal intend to make an official pursuit, slow, disciplined, according to the regulations. Will knows Elizabeth can die from this sluggish pace, so he goes to the prison, to the man who is a foregone conclusion to everybody. Jack is waiting for him, like he knew this moment would come. It is one of the character's pleasures, even in prison, even humbled, even defeated by circumstances. He seems to yet have a card up his sleeve. His cell is not a dead end. It is only a spot where he waits for someone more desperate than himself to unlock the door. Will needs Jack to locate the Black Pearl. Jack wants Will out of Port Royal, but not only that, his attention is of a different sort. As soon as he hears the name of Turner, he no longer sees a bold young blacksmith. He notices a missing piece in a game far older. Will doesn't know it yet, but his blood is worth a fortune, and the damned pirates have been after it 4 years. Jack doesn't tell all. Of course not. To tell the complete truth would be counter to his way of life. He supplies enough knowledge to be beneficial, not enough to lose the advantage, and it becomes one of the film's engines. Will advances ahead out of love, Jack moves forward out of calculation, but their paths intersect so well that one makes the other more dangerous. Their escape leads to one of the great adventure scenes of the film, the stealing of a ship in the harbour of the Royal Navy itself. Jack and Will can't merely chase the Black Pearl in any ship. They want speed, power, a chance to catch up to a black legend. Their target, the Interceptor, is a swift, sleek ship, the pride of Port Royal, but Jack has a plan to obtain it. A plan that sounds crazy at first. Draw attention, get chased, and then use the system against itself. The moment is amazing because it is a clash of two types of mastery. Will is real, honest, direct. He leaps, he paddles, he fights. He follows the plan with gritted teeth. But Jack thinks in currents and angles and human responses. He understands the officers want to save the biggest ship. He knows people underestimate boldness. Above all, he understands that the military order, when confronted with a notion that is too ludicrous, loses a few precious seconds attempting to grasp. And in the era of Jack Sparrow, it takes a few seconds to steal a ship. This theft is more than a sensational occurrence. This is the first piracy of Will. He crosses a boundary. No matter how much he continues telling himself he's acting for Elizabeth, even if he feels his cause is noble, he does not any longer seek the approval of the respectable world. He takes what he needs. For the first time, Will plays the man his father may have been. And this imperceptible likeness starts to worrying him. The connection between Jack and Will takes on a different aspect on the Interceptor. The water is isolating them. The uniforms, the fences, the social strata of Port Royal disappear. Only 2 men are left on a hijacked spacecraft. And a revelation that is coming. Will asks how Jack knows about the Black Pearl. Then Jack narrates the narrative of how he lost it, in his own manner. He was captain of the Black Pearl. Barbossa was his right-hand guy. The crew mutinied and left him on a remote island with a revolver with 1 bullet. A single bullet, not for hunting, nor for defending oneself for long, but to terminate one's own life if the weight grew too much. This is an important element about the handgun. It makes Jack a more battered figure than he seems. His floating motions, surprising grins and jokes have an ancient embarrassment behind them. Barbossa had not only stolen a ship from him, he took his name, his status, his renown. He let him live, nonetheless, with one more option, as if Jack's survival was already a terrible joke. Jack lived, though, and this survival, in the picture, is nearly worthy of a title of nobility. Not because he wins all the bouts is Jack good. He's amazing because he's not going anywhere. You can desert him, you can betray him, you can arrest him, you can threaten to hang him, and he always comes back smiling, with a flimsy excuse and a crazy idea that works. Will listens to this narrative, but keeps his distance. He doesn't want to look up to Jack. He doesn't want to be him. But something is shifting. Will start to see that the world of pirates is not only a bunch of crimes, it is also a world of shattered loyalties, twisted codes, old debts, and his own past may be linked to this realm, and a way he doesn't dare to dream of yet. Meanwhile, on board the Black Pearl, Elizabeth finds herself in captivity in a more bizarre predicament than a mere hostage. Barbossa is disturbingly courteous to her. He offers her clothing, food, a place at his table. But this hospitality is not comforting. It looks like a ceremonial preceding a sacrifice. Everything around her is too quiet to be secure. The pirates glance at her as if she had an answer in her. The medallion, her fictitious identity of Turner, her presence on board, each aspect bolsters the misconception that both shields and damns her. This sequence with the supper with Barbossa is one of the most enjoyable in the film, for it blends luxury, menace and tragedy. Elizabeth is famished. She eats in front of him. Barbossa, however, glances at the meal with aching longing. He can have the apple, the meal, the wine, but he cannot take pleasure from them. For this impossibility makes him more dangerous than a simple brutal pirate. He's not only a brute, he's a void dot, and in this nothingness the curse is strongest. Barbossa tells how he and his men stumbled across a cursed Aztec treasure. The gold coins were given back to the conquistadors, cursed to punish avarice. The pirates took the gold, spread it, and got their reward. To lift the curse they must reclaim each penny and pay a blood debt. Not just any blood. The blood of every pirate who had taken the treasure. The trouble is that one of the pirates isn't one of them anymore. Bootstrap Bill Turner, Will's father, had delivered the currency to his child before being punished by Barbossa and his crew. They strapped him to a cannon and flung him into the water to sink to the bottom. But since Bootstrap had been cursed too, he could not die. This detail is of a horrible darkness. He's doomed to an inconceivable existence, stuck underwater, in perpetual torment, with his blood still absent from the right. Elizabeth, under the false identity of Turner, is therefore the unwitting object of a trap which is not her own. Barbossa thinks she's Bootstrap's daughter. He thinks her blood will do for the fathers, and Elizabeth sees too late that her deceit has put her before an altar. The moon shows the actual shape of the astronauts. The pirates are walking skeletons, shadows of bones and tatters of cloth, not dead and not living. The audience was impressed by this sight in 2003, giving the film an instantly identifiable identity. The pirate was now more than a sea bandit. He turned into a mythical beast, a monster cursed by the riches he loved. But the best thing is that the film doesn't treat the curse as just a visual effect. It gives it a sort of emotional rationality. These folks do not dread death. They welcome it virtually. They are not looking for gold to get rich. They want to undo what the gold has done to them. The treasure is the result of their avarice, and now the riches makes them make amends for their own wrongdoing. Barbossa does not become innocent by this, however. His malice is not washed away by his suffering. He wants to live again. He's still willing to kill and manipulate and sacrifice to get there. That's what makes the character strong. He has a reason that you can understand, but that reason never really absolves him. Jack takes Will to Tortuga on the Interceptor, because a stolen spacecraft is not enough. You need a team, and Tortuga is the complete opposite of Port Royal. Port Royal may mask its ferocity behind uniforms, but Tortuga wallows in dirt, liquor, noise, and brawls. It's a location with no facade. Everything there is unclean and extravagant and chaotic, yet somehow honest in its depravity. There Jack meets Joshua Gibbs, a former sailor turned companion of fortune, a tired storyteller and living recollection of pirate stories. Gibbs is a bridge between myth and reality. He knows the tales, the rumors, the names, the curses. He understands the Black Pearl isn't just any ship, and when he mentions Jack, you can sense that Sparrow's reputation always outshines what is seen on film. Jack is renowned, criticized, feared and sought after. A legend tainted, but a tale nevertheless. Recruitment of the crew is purposefully disorganized. Jack and Will don't collect perfect heroes. They take on misfits, drunks, doubtful personalities, persons whose usefulness appears at times uncertain. But in the film's universe, a pirate adventure doesn't come from perfection. It's opportunism, luck, debts, and people foolish enough to follow a commander who hasn't yet taken back his ship. In the middle of it all, Will is becoming less and less like himself. He came to save Elizabeth in the spirit of a gentleman, but each action leads him farther from the decent world. He frees a pirate, steals a ship, crosses Tortuga, agrees to a crew of outlaws. But the more he breaks the rules, the closer he comes to the truth. The film thus advances on a dramatic contradiction. Will must become an outlaw to achieve the most heroic act of his life. Jack views the transition with mixed delight and fascination. Will is a prospective bargaining chip, therefore he doesn't tell him everything. If Turner's blood is what Barbossa needs, then Will is more than simply a traveling companion. He deserves a key. And Jack, who dreams of getting back the Black Pearl, understands how to spot a key when it walks by his side, thinking himself just in love. That's where the picture becomes interesting for Jack. He can assist Will, truly. He could really love to save Elizabeth, at least for his boy's sake. But he can also surrender part of the truth to regain what was taken from him. The issue with Jack is never, is he nice or bad? The real issue is how far will his longing for independence take him before he betrays those who trust him. As the Interceptor sails away with its motley crew, Elizabeth is transported to Isla de Muerta, the island of death, a secret destination where only those who already know where it is may locate. This notion adds a fairy tale aspect to the picture. The map is not adequate. Ordinary logic won't work. To reach the heart of the curse, you must be part of the pirate world, their secrets, their whispered tales, and there is a great gem in this heart, but the treasure sparkles no more with promise. It burns like an allegation. Each gold coin is an old decision, a fault, a debt. Barbossa thinks he is nearly at the end of his suffering. Elizabeth thinks she can withstand toying with words one more time. Will feels a rescue is closer. Jack thinks he's getting nearer to the Black Pearl. They all go in one direction, yet none of them has the complete truth yet. And it is what makes Isla de Muerta so hazardous. It is not merely a cave full of wealth. It's where falsehoods start to bleed. The Isla de Muerta is no pirate's haven. It's a mausoleum that won't stay shut. The beat changes again when Elizabeth is brought there. Port Royal had the chill glow of order. Tortuga was a living anarchy of a lawless port. The Isla de Muerta, however, seems to be in another universe. A hidden cave, torches, mounds of golden treasure like an ice sea, shadows every place. Here, adventure becomes ritual and everything appears to have a tale that is too ancient to be entirely comprehended. The Aztec treasure gleams in the heart of this cave, but it doesn't sparkle like in childhood dreams. Yes, it's eye-catching. It promises wealth, but it's nearly unhealthy to have around. All this gold has been mined by guys who desired more than their share, and now it appears every coin is waiting for its reckoning. This prize is before Barbossa with a certain passion. This is not a normal moment of success for him. It might be the end of years of nothingness, the end of a life in which the flavor of food, the warmth of the sun, the tiredness of the body, even the agony, have gone away. He does not want any gold. He longs to feel the gold in his fingertips again, like a living man would. This detail improves the scene. Barbossa isn't only frightened of failure, he's sick of being invincible. Here the film undermines one of the major myths of adventure, that you don't die, that you are immortal, that you survive sword thrusts and bullets. It looks like power on paper. In The Curse of the Black Pearl, it's a jail. To live forever without sense is a more horrible punishment than death. Elizabeth. She's at the center of a falsehood that begins to close in. Her name, she told me, was Turner, and the pirates think she has the blood they need to break the curse. They took the medallion away from her. We prepare the rite. It's all driven by an old, near-religious logic. The coin must go back in the chest. There will be bloodshed. A price must be paid. The crew holds its breath as Barbossa cuts Elizabeth's hand and lets her blood fall on the gold. Like doomed men at a door stand waiting men who do not breathe anymore. The time should release them. This is where it has all been going. All the years of seeking the bloodshed, the attack on Port Royal. Elizabeth kidnapped the return of the last piece. But nothing ever changes. The quiet that follows is more intense than the shot of a cannon. The curse is still here. Pirates are still captives of the state, and in the eyes of Barbossa hardens. Failure does not only imply the ritual didn't work, it indicates all their conviction was wrong. Elizabeth not the correct Turner. Her blood shall not be required for the debt. She's not the answer. Just a graceful error in a stolen dress, One of the film's major turning points is this mistake, for it suddenly turns Elizabeth's position around. Her falsehood had kept her safe, until now. They wanted her alive. She is now an embarrassing witness, a prisoner whose worth just tanked. She plays by the pirate rules, so that she can live, but finds that these rules only protect as long as they suit an interest. And it is at the proper time that Jack and Will approach the island. The trip to Isla de Muerta helps the film to portray the contrast between the two guys. Will has a mission: go in, save Elizabeth, get out. His bravery is evident, almost searing. Jack sees a chessboard: Barbossa, the curse, the Black Pearl, the crew, the name Turner, all the forces in play. For Will, the urgency is of a romantic kind, and for Jack, the urgency is personal, strategic, historical. He's not coming to save the day. He goes back to the place where he was robbed. Jack tells Will to wait, to watch, to take his time. But Will hasn't learnt to live impartial truths. He responds immediately when he sees Elizabeth in danger. He stops Jack's plan, goes into the cave, and sets out on a perilous rescue. The gesture is commendable, but it also reveals his weakness. Will occasionally mistakes courage for impatience. He thinks the conduct is right since his purpose is pure. The pirate world would show him that good intentions would not always save against bad outcomes. Will saves Elizabeth, and they make a brave, breathing escape. At last the two young people are together again. And last, the film gives us what we've been waiting for since the siege on Port Royal: Elizabeth's escape from Barbossa, Will's proving himself, and the interceptor sailing away with the last gold coin. One could imagine for a few moments that the plot has taken a straightforward turn. But Jack remains behind. Its choice, or rather its result, has a story to tell. Will saves Elizabeth, but leaves Jack in the cave with Barbossa. We can sympathize with Will. He does not trust Jack, and his main concern is Elizabeth. But this moment demonstrates that Will's honor is not yet full. He's willing to die for the one he loves, but not yet to admit a debt to a pirate. He's noble on one hand yet brutal on the other. Jack is caught by Barbossa, and he comes face to face with his old first mate. Their reunion is no mere showdown of hero and villain. To former partners, to guys tied together by a fundamental betrayal. Barbossa stole the Black Pearl, Jack lived, and now everybody understands that the other one can still be of service. The only substantial difference between them is in respect of power. Barbossa wants the ship. He wants the crew. He wants the loot. He wants the end of the curse. As one sits upon a throne, he's captain. But Jack wants the Black Pearl because the ship is his liberty. It's not simply timber, sails and cannons. His identity is drifting. Without the pearl, Jack is still Jack Sparrow, but he is a mythology unfinished, a monarch without a sea. Jack doesn't truly plead before Barbossa. He strikes a deal. He talks fast. He suggests options. He searches for cracks. He also tells something Barbossa doesn't know yet. The real son of Bootstrap Bill Turner is still alive. Will Turner is out there someplace, and his blood can cure the curse. It's explosive material. Barbossa quickly knows the game is not finished. Elizabeth was only a false key. Will is the genuine deal. Then the movie brings all its strands together. The kid saved in the mist, the medallion stolen by Elizabeth, the name Turner, the father cast into the depths, the curse left unfulfilled. All that appeared to belong to the past returns to assail the present. Meanwhile, on the interceptor, Will and Elizabeth think they are sailing away from danger, but they are taking the eye of the storm with them. Elizabeth now understands the item is cursed. Will comes to realize that his father wasn't the respectable man he wanted to believe, or at least not by the standards of Port Royal. The knowledge troubles him greatly. Will has a fuzzy picture of his father. He would have liked to imagine that he was of noble or at least neutral stock. He is threatened by the realization that Bootstrap Bill was a pirate. Will's preoccupied with honor. He wants to be worthy of Elizabeth, worthy of his name, worthy of a position in a world that looks down its nose at him. What is all his discipline worth if his blood is piratical? Is honor inherited, or a matter of choice? The film doesn't explain straight away, but it establishes the proper tension. Will is not his father because of the blood in his veins, but he can't run from this blood either. He has to learn how to deal with it. The Interceptor then readied itself to meet the chase of the Black Pearl. This is a visual encounter between two concepts about the sea. The Interceptor is swift, clean, tidy, a ship plucked from the Royal Navy yet still bearing the signs of its discipline. The Black Pearl is dark, huge, even otherworldly. It is captained by men that death cannot stop. One's an escape tool. One is a hunting legend. The naval fight that followed had the unique vitality of great adventure pictures. It is obvious, rhythmic, full of muscular activity and immediate decision. You can almost hear the wind, the ropes, the groaning wood, the cannonballs smashing through the holes. But behind the theatrics, each individual still exposes their instincts. Elizabeth will not be easily safeguarded. She acts, she observes, she looks for answers. She doesn't have the pirate's sheer strength, but she rapidly gets the power play. She knows how to deceive when she has to, bargain when she can, and act when no one allows her any other choice. Will fights with a sort of near desperation. He wants to rectify everything that gets away from him, protect Elizabeth, make amends for himself, reject his father's pirate history, save some small shred of integrity in a world where no one plays straight. But the more he battles, the clearer it becomes that bravery alone is not enough against an eternal crew. The pirates of the Black Pearl assault with enormous confidence. In contrast, they can absorb the knocks, fall down and get back up and keep going. Their immortality affects the logic of fighting. In a regular fight, dread of death holds men in check. That limit doesn't exist here anymore. They are nearly unstoppable, not because they are braver, but because death has no longer an immediate grasp on them. And thus is the dramatic power of the curse of the film. It's not only a mythical setting, it changes every encounter in concrete ways. How to destroy an immortal enemy. How can you save someone in a time where the normal norms of danger do not apply? How can you buy time from men who have long since lost any natural regard to time? The crew of the Interceptor becomes overpowered. The Black Pearl is showing its might. The stolen ship, a symbol of Jack and Will's daring, gets caught up in the reality of the curse. Escape can't last forever. Amidst this commotion, one event turns everything upside down. The pirates find that Will Turner is the real blood they are after. Bootstrap Bill's son, the life key Barbossa had been unknowingly waiting for. From then on, Will is not only the youthful hero who wants to save Elizabeth, he is the offering. His identity, of which he understood so little, matters more than his aims. His strength, his love, his honor mean nothing to the pirates. It is his blood that matters. The concept is terrible because it lowers Will to that which he sought to rise beyond. Suddenly, he who tried to show himself by his deeds is reduced to his birth. He is worth something because he is the son of a cursed pirate, not because he is a blacksmith, a fighter, or a lover. The world he turned his back on shuts out forcefully. Jack watches the pieces move meanwhile. You may dismiss him as opportunistic, yet there is always a doubt left by his quiet and his looks. The Black Pearl he desires. He understands that Will is needed. He knows that Barbossa will do whatever to use him. Will Jack save Will? Trade him? Or wait until everyone has forgotten he is plotting his own move? The fight ends in devastating defeat. The Interceptor is destroyed. The crew captured or scattered. Will falls into Barbossa's hands. Elizabeth is once again impotent in the face of a process beyond her control. And Jack, elusive as usual, is stuck between numerous factions, multiple falsehoods, several promises. Barbossa finally gets what he wants, the last piece, and Turner's blood. But this film has the real taste of pirate stories, and it never lets anybody win without a note of sarcasm. The protagonists believe they have achieved their destination, but it turns out to be a deeper trap. Barbossa believes he is on the verge of liberation. Will feels he's lost everything. Elizabeth feels she must save the one who came to save her. Jack may believe that his day is coming, and on the water, in the middle of the wreckage of the Interceptor, The curse has never appeared closer to its end, but blood alone won't break a curse. It fractures at the time when betrayals, debts, and wants come together, and that time is not yet arrived. The adventure's sense of control vanishes instantly when the interceptor is destroyed. Not anymore. Even in danger, Will and Elizabeth believed they could manipulate fate to their own ends. They'd taken a ship, assembled a crew, discovered Isla de Muerta, rescued Elizabeth from the pirates, fought the Black Pearl. It was there. The victories were shaky, but the ship is lost. Will is seized. Barbossa has the blood he seeks, and Elizabeth is faced with a harsh truth. In this world, strength is not always enough to defend those we love. Barbossa has got the idea that the keys will turn her. No more buying into Elizabeth's affair. No point in keeping her the main focus of the right any longer. Now she is only an encumbrance, or worse, an irritating reminder of an error. So the captain of the Black Pearl, they'll be rid of her without sorrow. But Barbossa doesn't murder Elizabeth right away. It would be far too straightforward and, most all, too much out of his character. He likes to practice the laws of piracy with that air of beautiful brutality, which is his characteristic. Elizabeth wanted to be let ashore on the next land. Barbossa respects the recipe, but not the spirit. He leaves him on a barren island. The deliciousness of it is heightened by the irony of her with Jack Sparrow. This choice leads to one of the most crucial sections of the film, because it abruptly deprives the protagonists of their spectacle of fights and ships. Nothing except cannons. No more guys. No more running after. A beach, a little bit of rum, to castaways, and one question. What is left of Jack Sparrow when nobody is around to witness his performance? This isn't Jack's first time on the island. It was even the site where years before he had been abandoned by Barbossa. This reappearance gives the scenario a special power. Yet another disaster for Elizabeth. It is a humiliation that begins again for Jack. The same trap, the same sea about, the same chance of dying unknowing. But rather than falling apart, he acts as if this were nearly a part of his own past. A dreadful memory he knows all too well to still be terrified of. But Elizabeth slowly starts to realize that the tale of Jack is composed of twisted reality. They believe he escaped from this island owing to an astonishing technique, perhaps binding sea turtles with the hair on his back. It's ridiculous, fantastic, impossible. Just the type of narrative Jack likes to have out alive, since a helpful legend is sometimes better than a too simple fact. The truth, precisely, is less heroic and more telling. Jack had heard that the island was a refuge for rum runners. He'd waited. He'd snatched the appropriate time, taken his chance to go. Thus, he did not mythically conquer the island. He lived by observation, patience, and opportunism. And that tells more about him than the story of the turtles. Jack is not merely a man who makes his own legend. He's a man who knows how tales shelter the surviving. Elizabeth refuses to be entirely enchanted. She notices the errors. She sees the selfishness, the falsehoods, the running away. But she also sees the smarts. She knows Jack wields his image like a weapon. He's mad, intoxicated, fortunate, or unable to take anything seriously. And as long as others accept this, they do not notice the true move approaching. The night on the island, with rum and fire, becomes odd time of breathing. Elizabeth drinks, sings, nearly dances around the disaster. It might be interpreted as only a funny moment, but it is also something else. For the first time, Elizabeth experiences a freedom without a chaperone, a freedom without the social corset, a liberation without the eyes of Port Royal. This independence is powerless, foolish, juvenile even. Yet it is hers. For a few hours, the island that was meant to be a prison turns into a place where she is no longer only the governor's daughter, the future bride of Norrington, or the hostage of Barbossa. Jack, for his part, maybe thinks he can wait for another chance. But Elizabeth takes a daring choice. In the morning she makes a smoke signal by burning the rum. It's a crime virtually sacrosanct to Jack. She eliminates not only a priceless store, but also the option of waiting according to her technique. For Elizabeth, however, it is the only rational choice. Will is to be sacrificed, the clock is ticking, and letting oneself slowly live on a beach would be a form of cowardice. This opposition is big. Jack respects the possibilities that come by chance. Elizabeth takes advantage of the chance, sacrificing what can be sacrificed. He has the mind of a professional flotsam. She reasons like one who will not wait till the guy she loves dies. The signal is working. They discover them, the Royal Navy. But this rescue does not have a pleasant ending. He sends Elizabeth back to the world she once left behind. Discipline, uniforms, duty, the eye of her father, the presence of Norrington. She comes back. Her skin is damaged by the sea. Her spirit is marked by piracy. But Port Royal still tries to put her back into a tale that is acceptable. A rescued girl. Threat of pirate to punish. A marriage to be completed. It may be like before, only Elizabeth is not the same anymore. She now understands that Will is alive, a hostage, and promised to Barbossa's ritual. She also knows that Jack, despite his faults, is the only one who understands the logic of the Black Pearl sufficiently to lead them. So she has to convince Norrington to do something. And now the film offers Elizabeth another sort of bravery. She doesn't carry a sword. She questions the societal conventions around her. She exploits her position. She uses her influence, and she leverages Norrington's love for her. Norrington is faced with a predicament of his own. He was an officer, sworn to uphold the law and hunt pirates. Jack Sparrow is a criminal, convicted. Will Turner help to seize a ship of the Navy? In asking him for aid, Elizabeth is really asking him to put order at the service of an experience which is above order. This is distressing to Norrington, for he is not a foolish man. He sees that Elizabeth is fond of Will, and he knows his affection may be unreturned. But he has a strange dignity. He may be rigorous, but he is not unkind. He consents to act, not in renunciation of the law, but in the perception that the law without bravery is an excuse. Elizabeth goes farther still. She tacitly accepts, or hints that she could accept, Norrington's request provided he saves Will. This is a vague, almost frantic movement. Her marital future is the only power society really acknowledges. That's not fair, yet it's what the picture depicts. In this environment, Elizabeth needs to contend with the limits that have been constructed around her. Jack is taken aboard again, and at once he is a live issue. He's a prisoner of the Navy. He's a needed guide for Elizabeth. He's still to himself under the quest toward the Black Pearl. From his face, his gestures, his statements, one has the sense that he accepts the situation, but his mind is already at work. He knows Norrington wants Barbossa. He knows Barbossa wants to get at Will. He knows Will wants to save Elizabeth, even from captivity. And he understands that somewhere in this paradoxical combination of aspirations, there could be a route to his ship. Meanwhile, on the Black Pearl, Will finds out the entire extent of his history. He's not a prisoner anymore. He's a resource for ritual. Barbossa and his crew don't need to convince him, just bleed him. The last bit has to be stained with Turner's blood. Then, if everything goes well, the pirates will become mortal again. At last they will be able to feel, suffer, eat, drink and die. The contradiction here is key. Barbossa wants to be vulnerable again. He wishes to recover mortality like one recovers a treasure. And Will, who has spent his entire attempting to distance himself from his father's pirate image, becomes the one who can restore the pirate's bodily humanity. His blood is charged with a debt he has not incurred, but which the world exacts from him. Will still attempts to fight with honor. He blames Barbossa. He talks about his father. He will not be made a function. But Barbossa has that coldness of a man who waits too long. He has little regard for other sentiments. He and his crew have starved in eternal hunger. Against this Will's youth, his love of Elizabeth, his convictions, all this weighs little, but Will has a strength Barbossa doesn't know about. A strength he's gained from Jack, whether he wants it or not. He has learned that truth may be a weapon. He observed how in the pirate world a man's values sometimes lay in what he could halt, and his blood is required, and his death cannot be squandered thoughtlessly. He's a menace and a victim. Thus the picture sets up its ultimate great gesture. On the other hand, Barbossa goes to Isla de Muerta with the belief that he has finally triumphed. And in contrast, Norrington, Elizabeth and Jack are coming to him with distinct aims. Norrington intends to wipe off the pirates and bring back order. Elizabeth wants to save Will. Jack wants to get his Black Pearl back and fulfill his debt to Barbossa. They all follow the same axis, but no one fights for the exact same cause. It is this overlapping which finally makes it rich. The fight that is to come will be more than a meeting of good and evil. A conflict among many meanings of freedom will arise. For Norrington, law protects freedom. The sea without order is a torment. For Elizabeth, freedom begins when she is free to choose who she loves and what life she will turn down. For Will, it means accepting her name, but not allowing her name define who she is. For Jack, it is the very tangible image of a black ship, an unrestricted sea, and an inner compass that cannot be confiscated. Barbossa, ultimately, being free is being able to experience the world again, even if it implies the chance of dying. Everyone wants to get out of prison, the jail of caste, the blood jail, the law as the jail, the curse of the jail, the betrayal jail. And that is why the Black Pearl is not merely a ship to be recaptured or destroyed. It is the site where all these jails converge. Jack's fantasies, Barbossa's harshness, Elizabeth's terror, Will's truth, the Navy's obsession, all on her dark hull. Each character has to display what he is willing to spend on board or around him. As they near Isla de Muerta, Jack makes a plan for Norrington. This proposal, as usual, sounds advantageous to everyone, but it has enough grey areas to serve Jack before anybody else. He says he can talk Barbossa into coming out, into exposing his crew, into letting the Navy strike. Norrington, of course, is suspicious, trusting Jack Sparrow is like going onto a bridge already on fire and expecting that the flames would maintain their promises. But Norrington doesn't have much choice. The Black Pearl is deadly. His men do not grasp the curse. Elizabeth insists Will die, so Jack gets another margin of mobility. That little area between the rope and freedom when he is the most dangerous. Barbossa is inside the cave, performing the last rite. The gold is waiting. Blood of Turner, wait. The pirates wait for the conclusion of their suffering with a kind of holy impatience. But Jack comes into the game like a willing grain of sand in a machine already in action. And that's when his talent is really on display. Jack doesn't always aim to be the strongest guy. He wants to be in the correct position at the moment when the opposing forces cancel each other out. The crew is with Barbossa. Norrington has the soldiers. The blood is with Will. Elizabeth's got moxie. Jack, in contrast, understands disorder. In a pirate narrative, the one who knows chaos occasionally has more than a kingdom. And in Isla de Muerta, in the torchlight, beneath the weight of the cursed treasure, anarchy is waiting to open its doors. Jack Sparrow is back in the jaws of the monster. On Isla de Muerta, he looks like a man who has forgotten to be terrified. But this return is not impromptu, even although Jack constantly gives the idea of strolling at random. The cave, the riches, Barbossa, the cursed pirates, were locked up, Norrington's men outside. Everything is too hazardous to take on directly, so Jack does what Jack does. He enters the deception, not to be lost in it, but to use it against those who think they control it. Barbossa knows him. It was his old captain, the guy he had deceived, deserted, shamed. He knows Jack wants the Black Pearl. He also knows that Jack would deal with just about anyone if he thinks he can get his ship back. And Barbossa takes comfort in this knowing, but that also makes him susceptible, because he feels Jack has one want. But Jack Sparrow is never as straightforward as his foes want him to be. In the cave, he suggests to Barbossa a risky idea. Don't lift the curse straight soon. Wait. Use the immortality of the crew to assault Royal Navy. The pirates were still unstoppable. They could slaughter the troops, recover the upper hand, and only then break the curse. The argument seemed reasonable on paper. He praises Barbossa's savagery, his lust for dominion, his need to break those who challenge him before he is mortal again. But Jack really wants something else in this proposition. He has to buy himself some time. He wants to get the pirates out of the cave. He wants to be between Barbossa, the treasure, Will and the crew. And most of all, he wants to be there, at the heart of the system, when the curse changes its state. For in this scenario, the pivotal moment will not be just when blood meets gold. It'll be the time when everyone thinks they have already won. Barbossa approves, for in the scheme, he sees a cruelty he can grasp. The crew is going to come out of the sea to surprise Norrington's ship. This is one of the most powerful images in the film. Skeleton pirates marching at the bottom of the water, quiet, borne by the moon and the curse, moving toward the hull army of the dead. Then the fantastic is mixed with the naval adventure with complete efficacy. No longer does the sea divide the living from the monsters. It is their secret way. Norrington's soldiers, aboard the Dauntless, feel they are about to participate in a classic encounter. They think of guns, of boardings, of ship movements. They have not yet learned that the adversary is below, in a world where human norms no longer apply. When the pirates arrive, the conflict turns into a nightmare. The troops hit, fire, wrestle, but the opponents get up again. The bodies beneath the moon speak the reality of bones. The laws had not provided for the misery to which military bravery was subjected. This also provides Norrington his best dimension of the moment. He is not only the man of order, the one who chases the heroes. He really fights. He stands dignified against the impossible. He rapidly comprehends, adjusts, and continues to command, despite the unbelievable. The film might have made fun of him, to praise Jack or Will better. He doesn't. No. Norrington is part of a rigorous environment, yet he is not a coward. And that little dash of subtlety makes the triangle between him, Elizabeth, and Will more fascinating. The Navy is after the immortal pirates, but the real fight is in the cave. Will is still a prisoner, but he is no longer a passive sacrifice. He has learnt that his blood is necessary. He knows Barbossa can't finish the rite without him. In a tale of universal exploitation, Will at last realizes his own strategic worth. No crew, no ship, no title, yet he has something Barbossa cannot replace. Elizabeth, on her part, again opposes the role being forced upon her. She doesn't just sit there waiting to be rescued. She acts, she fights, she helps free Will. She utilizes weapons she discovers, opportunities she makes. By this point in the film, her change is evident. The corseted young lady initially, practically smothered by a social protocol, has turned into someone who knows the violence of the world and is bold enough to react to it. She doesn't have to be a pirate, in any literal sense, to have a sort of pirate freedom. For his part, Jack ultimately finds himself face to face with Barbossa in a duel that goes beyond than mere retribution. Two guys wrestle in the cursed riches, in a cave where the wealth has lost all innocence. Each sword blow seemed to slice through their common past. Barbossa stole the Black Pearl. Jack lived. The crew's captain was Barbossa. Jack waited for his opportunity. Barbossa wants to be brought back. Jack wants to get back to what made him a captain. And in between them, there lies this wealth that has transformed ambition to damnation. The duel is framed around a charming revelation that Jack himself stole a chunk of the riches. He damned himself of his own accord. In the moonlight, his body turns to a skeleton at Barbossa's. For a few moments he reveals the condition of his foe. That is a really telling gesture. Jack accepts to be a monster for a little while so he doesn't be murdered too quickly. He utilizes the curse as a defense, as an insurance policy against death, as a strategy to stay in play until just the right moment. It's just pure Jack Sparrow. Where others perceive a curse to be avoided, he sees a resource to be used with skill. He doesn't want to be cursed forever. He's not looking for immortality, but he knows that a horrible power may be beneficial for a few minutes, if you know when to throw it away. Barbossa, however, discovers he has miscalculated Jack once again. He could stab him, strike him, injure him, but Jack couldn't die as long as the curse held. This makes their combat a ridiculous, unpleasant meeting between two briefly invulnerable men. The sabers clash, the bodies break, and reform in the weird logic of the curse. But the true fighting isn't in the punching. It is the timing of the right, who will be mortal when the fatal wound is inflicted. This is the question that gives the film all its intensity in the end. The outward conflict is stunning, but the core of the film is in an almost surgical synchronization. We will have to bleed. The currency must go back to the chest. Jack has to shoot his bullet. Barbossa must think he's still safe. It's got to break a second too soon for him. Jack's gun comes back, like an old promise. This firearm comes with one bullet from the start. The one Barbossa had left him on the isolated island, not to fight, but to die. Jack kept that bullet 4 years. He might have used it for something else. He might have thrown it away, squandered it, forgotten it. But he retained it as an "I owe you a gunshot" for the guy who had doomed him to chose lunacy, solitude, suicide. In adventure movies, vital things have to come back with a new weight. This gun is not a gadget. It's a recollection. When Jack aims at Barbossa, he's not aiming at an adversary. He shoots at the moment they take away from him his life as a captain. He aims for the abandonment. He fires at the mutiny. He shoots at years of humiliation converted to patience. But if Jack fires too soon, Barbossa will live. Barbossa wins if he waits too long. Everything is in Will's hands. Will, for his part, eventually gets the currency and accepts to spill his own blood. This move is vital to his arc. At first, he did not know of his history and unintentionally tried to avoid piracy. Now he uses up blood, the blood of Turner, not to follow Barbossa, but to pick the end of the narrative himself. He can't change his father's identity. He can't change Bootstrap Bill's history. But what this blood symbolizes now is his to determine. So he hands it over, not as a victim, like a guy who has finally learned the worth and the peril of his name. The coin falls inside the box. Blood pays the debt. The spell has broken, and Jack shoots at that time. The bullet strikes Barbossa. Barbossa doesn't comprehend for a split second. He has been unafraid of injury for so long that his own body looks astonished to be mortal again. Then he stares at the apple he held, the fruit he had dreamt of tasting really. His whole sorrow lies in this detail. He wanted to feel it. He wanted to eat. He wished to return to the land of the living. And he comes back to it just at the moment when death can finally reach him. His fall is spectacular because it is not just punishing. It's almost tragic, ironic. Barbossa got what he wanted, mortality. But this win comes with Jack's gunshot in his chest. Again, he's a man long enough to die like a man. The pirates of the Black Pearl, too, see the end of their invincibility around him. On the Dauntless, Norrington's warriors witness the enemy they've been fighting suddenly become weak. The punches descend. The bodies drop. The surreal dread is once more a human struggle. And when the curse is lifted, the balance of power changes. The change echoes a major theme of the movie. Not all characters want the same freedom, yet all freedom costs. The cursed pirates yearn to feel again, but to feel is also to suffer. Barbossa wanted to be alive, but life is being able to die. Will wanted to save Elizabeth, but he had to embrace the pirate blood he hated. Elizabeth wanted to live her own life, but she had to sacrifice the comfy innocence of Port Royal. Jack wanted his legacy back, but he had to risk the same bullet he'd guarded since his betrayal. The film finished the mutiny circle when Barbossa falls. Jack didn't simply survive. He waited for the time when the ex-traitor would be human enough to pay his due, and that patience provides a certain grace to his retribution. Jack is no violent conqueror. He's a man who allows the chaos to grow into a door. Meanwhile, Will and Elizabeth are caught up in the thick of the spell ending. Their love has endured an odd test. Social classes, kidnapping, deception, pirate lineage, sacrifice, fighting the undead. No longer a hidden feeling between a blacksmith and the governor's daughter. A truth tried by risk. Elizabeth witnessed Will risking his life for her. Will witnessed Elizabeth battle, lie, bargain, burn their only rum reserve, oppose the men who wanted to decide for her. They can no longer look at each other as the beginning. But the end of the curse is not the end of the chains. In the perspective of the law, Jack Sparrow is still a pirate. Will is still a ship-stealing, convict-breaking-out dude. Elizabeth is still a lady whom her world wants to put back on an acceptable track. Norrington is still the man in charge of restoring order. The Fantastic may depart, but human limitations rush in. The Black Pearl, released from Barbossa, is once more the object of desire. This is the moment, for Jack, when his dream finally seems to be in his hands. There is his ship. His adversary is dead. The gang will know when he's back. But Jack Sparrow is one of those heroes who never leave a win without being captured by a rope, a debt, or a court. And that's exactly what's on tap. The curse is broken, but the community of men is its own ceremony now. The rite of condemnation. Jack's back at the gallows after fighting eternal pirates, after indirectly saving Port Royal, after fulfilling a debt no one else could comprehend. Here the film displays its last irony. The official world is delighted to be saved by a pirate, but not prepared to forgive him for being one. The water has restored the living to their mortality. Meanwhile, the law is already waiting with its rope. After Isla de Muerta, Port Royal has its walls, its uniforms, its ceremonies back. But something is different. In the beginning of the film, Port Royal was a sort of steadying influence, a structured, upright, confident universe. The pirates were out. The law was in. Sailors' stories were monsters. Young ladies wore clothes. Blacksmiths knew their position. And officers knew what honor meant. This barrier is less evident after the curse. Elizabeth watched a dead stroll by moonlight. Will found out that his blood was burdened with a pirate debt. Norrington had to deal with foes his military training couldn't understand. And the one the law seeks to hang. Jack Sparrow played a major part in Barbossa's demise, but the official world seeks to go back into its old patterns. Jack is transported back to Port Royal condemned to die. His intricacy is not idealized. We don't measure what he did truly. They don't admit publicly that he helped take down Barbossa. He's still a pirate in the eyes of the law, and a pirate must be hung. This moment is incredibly crucial, since it returns the picture to its original tension. The wonderful curse is lifted, but one plague remains, that of social labels. Jack is a pirate, hence he is guilty. Will is a blacksmith, hence he is inferior. Elizabeth is the governor's daughter, and is therefore to be married properly. Norrington is a commodore, therefore a guardian of order. Every man has a name, a rank, and a function, and Port Royal says these words are enough to define a life. Then the gallows is the earthly image of the accursed wealth. The gold in the cave had required blood to pay an ancient obligation. In Port Royal, the law requires a body to re-establish its power. The setting is more formal, more acceptable, cleaner, yet the process is still brutal. A man has to die for the system to be restored, even in the shadow of the gallows. Jack has that peculiar lightness that helps him slip away. He does not beg like a common man, he watches. He says. He waits for the chance. His confidence is almost ridiculous, but it is the product of a long habit. Jack has lived through too many difficult circumstances to think that a rope is the end. He searches for the blind spot as he breathes. Will, however, cannot see this execution as a simple application of law. He knows what Jack did. He understands that Elizabeth would be lost without him, that Barbossa may win, and the curse would still be in place. And he knows too that Jack played him, that he lied, that he looked after his own interests. But Will has grown up. He is no longer the young guy of the beginning, bound by a basic notion of honor. Now he realizes a man might be ethically damaged and still deserve to have a debt fulfilled to him. This is a big development. Will at first intended to be respectable by the norms of Port Royal. Finally he realizes that sometimes true honor requires breaking the law. It is not a turn to mindless criminality. That's a more grown-up distinction. Legality and justice aren't necessarily the same. Elizabeth witnesses a similar change, but in a different world. For her, the gallows are not only Jack's destiny, it's the moment she can see the hypocrisy of her reality plainly. Jack may be employed, tolerated, used to conquer a risk, and then destroyed as soon as he becomes bothersome. Will can sacrifice his life for her, but he will remain socially inferior. Norrington may be courageous and dignified, but against his better judgment, he tries to position her in a future that no longer suits who she is. Thus the scene of execution sums up all the unanswered options. Norrington still represents order, but order broken by what he has witnessed. Governor Swan represents father authority, but is overpowered by the will of his daughter. Will is about love and obligation. Elizabeth is the resistance to be placed back in a cage. Jack is that scandalous freedom that no one knows how to classify. When Will intervenes to save Jack, he has crossed his last border. Now it's not that instinctive reaction anymore, like taking the interceptor. It is a deliberate, public, irrevocable act. He looks at the troops, Norrington, the governor, Elizabeth, and by his conduct says that Jack Sparrow does not deserve to die like this. The moral duel is more powerful than the physical duel. Will understands that he may lose all that he has sought to earn, his reputation, his safety, perhaps even his chance of being welcomed in Elizabeth's society, but he does, and it is just that which makes him worthy of her, nor that he has noble blood, nor that he conceals a distinguished birth, but that he chooses his dignity himself at the moment when it costs anything. In public, Elizabeth, too, makes her choice. Now she did not limit herself to following the event. She will not allow the guys to determine among themselves what is to become of Jack, Will, and her future. She stands by Will. Her body and her words show where her devotion lays. And in a world as formalized as Port Royal, this is nearly a rebellion. Loving Will is not about choosing one man over another. She is denying marriage as a societal convenience, refusing safety without love, refusing to be virtuous at the expense of her own soul. Then Norrington sees something he would rather never have seen so plainly. Elizabeth likes Will, and the brilliance of Norrington in this climax is what he does. He may get bitter. He may punish Will more severely. He may utilize his power to bring about a positive ending, but he does not. With agony but with elegance he acknowledges that Elizabeth's love is not for him. From his romantic failure, he does not become desperate. Rather the opposite. It exposes a great dignity. Deeper than his costume, the subtlety gives the picture an unusual balance. The romantic rival is not destroyed to make the plot simple. He is still honorable. He loses, but he does not degrade himself. And it makes Elizabeth's choice stronger, because she does not refuse a horrible man. She just chooses the guy she loves, and the life that suits who she's become. Jack discovers in the turmoil of Will his favorite element, improvisation. The gallows, the soldiers, the sabers, the pandemonium, everything become material for escape. Jack is not a brute, never. He goes over them like a wave over rocks, looking for the gap between the obstructions. Every movement looks to be uneven, yet every instability is another step to the escape. The picture then provides one more character trait. Even when Jack needs saving, he manages to seem like he's been part of the rescue. Will comes in, Elizabeth takes her place. Norrington wavers, but Jack is Jack. He chats, slides, dodges, smiles, nearly falls, straightens up. Again he turns a denunciation into a dramatic spectacle. But the actual resolution is not in the flight alone. There is a way people look at him now. At first Jack was a ludicrous pirate, arrested the moment he set foot in Port Royal. At the end of the day, he was still a pirate, but he was grudgingly acknowledged as a guy who had altered the course of events. Norrington understands he's not just any crook. Will knows he owes him more than he wants to admit. Elizabeth knows he has opened a door to a freedom will never forget. Jack ends up falling into the water, and this fall symbolizes the character's entry. He had come on a boat that was going down. Between elegance and shame, again, he goes by water. Even the escape has a signature form in his case. He does not depart like a traditional hero. He vanishes like gossip, like an unsolved issue, like a guy the water reclaims before the law can get him. But this time, he's not alone. The Black Pearl waited for him out at sea. Only this one thing changes the whole conclusion. Jack doesn't go running into the abyss. He goes back to his ship, to his crew, to the mythology he intended to bring back from the beginning. The Black Pearl, emblem of Barbossa, of the curse and of the horror, is once again the symbol of Jack, but of course an unclear sign. This is not a ship of shiny heroes, it's a pirate ship, but in the logic of the film it is also the epitome of a freedom that the walls of Port Royal would never grasp. The tale finished the circle of his wound as Jack boards the ship. Barbossa had betrayed him, had forsaken him, had taken away his leadership. Now that Barbossa is dead, the curse is removed and Jack gets back what was taken from him. But he finds it without becoming a serious monarch or a prim captain. He is like he has always been, unpredictable, rude, theatrical, always half in joke and half in myth. His gang greets him with that odd loyalty that is characteristic of the pirate life. Nothing is pure there, nothing is totally steady, but something works. Jack needs his team to be a captain. We need Jack because he can take ambiguity and make a route from it. And the Black Pearl, with him at the helm, is no longer merely the fastest ship in the Caribbean. You are a promise of the horizon. Will and Elizabeth face the repercussions in Port Royal? Will has shown his love, his courage, and his allegiance to a doomed pirate. He can't go back to being the quiet smith who makes other people's swords. That was his way of being visible. Elizabeth picked Will in front of the representatives of her world for her part. She can no longer completely return to the position that was set for her. Their love is no longer a secret, no longer a delicate thing, no longer ignominious. Tested by water, by death, by blood, by law, touched and humbled, Governor Swan finally understands what his daughter is becoming. He might not get it all, but he gets enough. Elizabeth's affection for Will is not a fleeting fancy. It is a choice born by trial. And Will, for one of such low position, had more nobility than most of the well-born. For his part, Norrington gives Jack a head start. He does not formally give up the legislation. He does not become an accomplice in the plain meaning. But he allows Sparrow a measure of respect, a day's grace, a chance to vanish into the horizon before the chase restarts. That's a great compromise for his character. He's still an officer, but he is no longer blind. He knows that some guys are more than their criminal past. The closing picture of Jack in Black Pearl crystallizes all that the film has built up. He glances at the horizon, gets back to his spot, finds his sea, his weird compass, his gestures, his smile. Everything shows that for him the experience is never really over. Freedom for Jack Sparrow isn't a destination. It is an everlasting movement. It goes somewhere else the moment we seek to halt it. The moment we think we have him all worked out, he makes himself into someone else. And that's why this finale is so good. It gives you satisfaction, without shutting you off from the world entirely. Barbossa is beaten, the curse is lifted. Will and Elizabeth choose each other. Jack gets the Black Pearl back, but the ocean is free. Pirates are still alive. The Navy is still there. Debts, stories, treasures, secrets, all that goes on beyond the frame. The film wraps up its main story, but with the suggestion that the Caribbean is full of other doors. The curse of the Black Pearl is therefore not only the narrative of a cursed treasure, it's the narrative of characters learning to see their real shackles. Elizabeth thought she was secure, but she was suffocating. Will believes his honor comes from his birth, but realizes it comes from the decisions he makes. Jack had looked free from the start, but he had been tormented by a betrayal and the loss of his ship. Barbossa appeared powerful, but was prisoner of a gold that robbed him of the basic feeling of existence. Norrington seems constrained by law, yet he demonstrates that he can bring a certain amount of human judgment to bear on it. Each in their own way breaks free from a curse, not all curses, not definitively, but enough for the world to be no longer the same. And when the Black Pearl sails away on the water, with Jack Sparrow finally at its helm, the film leaves behind a rare sensation, that of having gone through a complete adventure, spectacular, funny, romantic, haunted, but also surprisingly precise in its characters. The gold coin that fell into the sea at the beginning awakened a cursed past. In the end, it is a man who fell into the sea who awakens a legend. What remains after the end of the curse of the Black Pearl is not just the image of a black ship disappearing into the horizon. It's a feeling of awakening. As if the film had taken a genre that many thought was outdated, the pirate film, and stood it up in front of the audience with enough humor, mystery, and flair to remind them of one essential thing. Adventure doesn't need to be naive to be generous. It can be funny without being empty, fantastic without becoming confusing, spectacular without forgetting its characters, romantic without losing its irony. The big secret of the film is that everything seems light on the surface. While almost every character carries a wound or a prison, Jack Sparrow makes you laugh, but he is defined by a betrayal. Will Turner seems pure, but he is haunted by blood he does not understand. Elizabeth Swann seems privileged, but she lives in an elegant cage. Barbossa looks like a greedy villain, but he is condemned to taste nothing anymore. Norrington embodies the law, but he must learn that the law does not encompass all human truth. This richness explains why the film continues to resonate beyond its iconic scenes. Of course, there are the duels, the cannons, the skeletons under the moon, Jack's lines, the sea chases, the attack on Port Royal. But if the film were just a series of memorable images, it would have aged like many shows of its time. It endures because its images are connected to clear desires. Everyone wants something. Jack wants to get the Black Pearl back. Will wants to save Elizabeth and understand what being honorable really means. Elizabeth wants to breathe, choose, break free from the role prepared for her. Barbossa wants to feel again. Norrington wants to maintain order without losing his dignity. Even the cursed pirates, behind their violence, want to escape a punishment that has turned their immortality into eternal famine. The film thus progresses like a treasure hunt, but the true treasure changes depending on who is watching. For Barbossa, the treasure is no longer gold. Gold has become the problem. His true treasure is an apple he could finally bite into with pleasure. A taste, a sensation, proof that her body still belongs to her. This detail gives his death a perfect irony. At the moment he regains the possibility of living, he also discovers the possibility of dying. And that is precisely what he had forgotten. Life is only flavorful because it can be lost. For Will, the treasure is not Elizabeth as a romantic possession. The film avoids this trap by showing that Elizabeth acts, chooses, fights, and influences the plot. Will's true treasure is a reconciled identity. He can love Elizabeth without renouncing his father. He can carry the blood of Bootstrap Bill without becoming a copy of the pirates who betrayed him. He can understand that honor is not given by a social class, nor guaranteed by birth, nor annulled by a name. Honor appears at the moment of choice. For Elizabeth, the treasure is even more internal. It is the ability to say no. No to a life that is merely acceptable. No to protection that suffocates her. No to the idea that a woman of her rank should be grateful to be confined in comfort. She does not reject all civilization to become a caricature of a pirate. She retains her intelligence, her sensitivity, her bond with her father, but she refuses to let these bonds become chains. And Jack, he's looking for the Black Pearl. It is important to emphasize this point, because the film presents this ship as a mere luxury item. For Jack, the pearl is almost an extension of his soul. Without it, Jack is still brilliant, but he is incomplete. He can survive in prisons, on the docks, on the islands, in the schemes, but his true language is the sea. His true kingdom is movement. His true power is not being assigned to a fixed place. The Black Pearl represents the absolute freedom, but also its ambiguity. It is not an innocent ship. It was used to attack, to plunder, to terrify. He carried Barbossa and his cursed crew. He is bound by blood, betrayal, and fear. Yet, when Jack takes it back, the ship regains a different moral color, not pure, but alive. Like Jack himself, the pearl is not clean. He is free, dangerous, seductive, impossible to categorize. That's precisely why Jack Sparrow has become such a remarkable figure. He's not constructed like a classic hero. He doesn't seek to be admirable at every moment. He lies, runs away, cheats, improvises, manipulates. He is sometimes cowardly in appearance, sometimes courageous out of necessity, sometimes generous when it aligns with his interests, sometimes more loyal than he is willing to admit. This constant contradiction makes him alive. We don't watch Jack to see if he will do the right thing according to a simple code. We watch him to see how he will transform an impossible situation into an improbable outcome. His strength comes from his refusal to be frozen. The Navy wants to define him as a pirate to be hanged. Barbossa wants to reduce him to a defeated captain. Will first wants to classify him as a man without honor. Elizabeth hesitates between mistrust and fascination. But Jack eludes every definition. He's all of that at once, and something else besides. A survivor, a strategist disguised as a clown, a wounded man who turns his injury into a legend, a captain who understood that reputation is sometimes as useful as a cannon. The film uses this energy to renew the pirate genre. Before the curse of the Black Pearl, the cinematic pirate might have seemed to belong to an old imagery: tricorn hat, saber, treasure map, secret island, parrot, mutiny. The film retains these elements, but it recharges them. It adds the pace of the modern blockbuster, the gothic fantasy of the undead, an adventure romance, and above all, an unpredictable central character who changes the tone of every scene he appears in. But the film does not become the Jack Sparrow movie. This is important. Jack often dominates the screen, but the story holds together because Will, Elizabeth, Barbossa, and Norrington each have a real role. If Will didn't exist, Jack wouldn't have the key to the curse. If Elizabeth didn't exist, the story wouldn't have its driving force of choice and social transgression. If Barbossa didn't exist, Jack wouldn't have a dark mirror of piracy. If Norrington didn't exist, the conflict with the Order wouldn't have an honorable face. Barbossa, in particular, deserves to be seen as more than just an adversary. He's what Jack could become if the desire to possess completely replaced the desire to be free. Barbossa commands the Black Pearl, but he never seems free. He's bound to the treasure, to the curse, to the need to atone for a wrong. Jack wants the ship to open the horizon. Barbossa uses it as an instrument of domination and exploration. One is movement, the other is obsession. Barbossa's apple and Jack's compass summarize this difference. Barbossa wants a concrete pleasure that he can no longer attain. Jack possesses a compass that does not point north, but toward what he desires the most. One is deprived of sensation, the other is guided by desire. The film does not yet develop the entire mythology of this compass, but the idea is already there. Jack is not guided by ordinary maps. He moves forward according to an inner logic, sometimes selfish, sometimes brilliant, always unstable. Will, faced with these two pirate figures, must choose his own path. He does not become Jack. He doesn't become Barbossa. He doesn't become a simple officer of Port Royal either. He becomes Will Turner, that is to say, a man capable of wielding a sword, loving without possessing, acknowledging his blood without submitting to it, and breaking the law when justice demands it. His evolution is more subtle than Jack's, but it gives the film its heroic heart. Elizabeth, she is the character who moves the boundary between worlds. She knows Port Royal, but she is fascinated by pirates. She understands the codes of high society, but she knows how to use the pirate code. She can wear a ceremonial dress, then fight in the midst of swords. She can be captive, but she is never mentally submissive. She lies to Barbossa, negotiates with Norrington, causes the rescue on the island by burning the rum, chooses Will in the end. Her arc is not simply that of a woman saved. It is the story of a woman who learns that her childhood imagination of pirates concealed a broader truth. The world is dangerous, but staying in a cage is not living. The strength of the film also comes from its tonal balance. It can make you laugh with Jack arriving on a sinking ship, then send shivers down your spine with the skeleton pirates walking underwater. He can offer a romantic scene between Will and Elizabeth, then return to a dry joke. It can show a spectacular battle, then pause on Barbossa's almost tragic frustration over an apple. This mix could have collapsed. Too much humor would have killed the threat. Too much darkness would have betrayed the spirit of adventure. Too much romance would have slowed down the story. But the film finds a rare line, a kind of dance between panache and curse. This dance is seen in the direction of Gore Verbinski. The film has a taste for physical movement, bodies falling, chains, ropes, sabers, sails, cannons, doors opening and closing. The action is not just an explosion of noise. It uses the settings. The forge becomes a stage for inventive duels. The port becomes a stage of manipulation. The deserted island becomes a stage of comic truth. The treasure cave becomes a ritual theater. And in the midst of this staging, the music plays an immense role. The heroic themes, the chase rhythms, the orchestral momentum give the film that immediately recognizable energy of a grand adventure. The music pushes the viewer toward the horizon, but it also retains an element of threat. It makes you want to run on a bridge, to raise a sail, to believe that a ship can be more than just a ship. The Curse of the Black Pearl therefore achieves something difficult. It gives an impression of a very accessible folktale, while being constructed with remarkable precision. The objects return, names matter, lies have consequences, debts must be paid. The first scene with the medallion sets up the finale. The single bullet pistol foreshadows Barbossa's death. The name Turner, initially hidden, becomes the key to the ritual. The Black Pearl, initially a threat, becomes a promise of freedom. Nothing is placed just for decoration. Even humor often serves the mechanics. Jack makes people laugh to disarm his enemies. The contradictions of the pirate code reveal the hypocrisy of the rules. The rum scenes on the island show the difference between Jack's opportunistic waiting and Elizabeth's decisive action. Each enjoyable element also serves a dramatic function. That's why the film satisfies both viewers who simply want to relive an adventure and those who seek a complete explanation. You can watch it for the swords, the pirates, and the skeletons. You can also watch it as a story about invisible prisons, rank, name, debt, greed, reputation, law, legend. In the end, the most obvious curse is broken, but the film leaves a more subtle question. Are we really free when we get what we wanted? Barbossa gets the sensation and dies. Jack retrieves the Black Pearl, but remains pursued. Will wins Elizabeth, but her connection to the pirate world does not disappear. Elizabeth chooses well, but her future will no longer be simple. Norrington retains his honor, but loses the romantic future he had envisioned. Freedom does not erase the price. It only gives the right to choose a price for oneself. And perhaps that's why Jack's smile at the end is anything but restful. He hasn't arrived somewhere. He has only regained the possibility to leave again. For him, that's enough. For a pirate, the horizon is not a promise of peace. It's a promise of movement. The Black Pearl sails away, leaving Port Royal behind and the audience with the knowledge that these seas will be restless forevermore. When a legend has gotten their ship back, no chart can fully tell you what occurs next. The enduring power of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, also stems from a somewhat odd fact. This film shouldn't have been so clear. In theory, converting a theme park ride into a full-length feature film have been a dangerous proposition. Mythical pirates, treasure islands, sword duels, hidden maps, merciless commanders had all been seen in the cinema. The genre had great memories, but also the fear of dust. So a new door had to be created, not to repeat the previous codes, wake them up. And the film rouses them, knowing that the pirate is not merely a historical or mythological character. It's a movie thing. The pirate is the individual who escapes boundaries, uniforms, official maps and perfectly placed names. He may be dangerous, aggressive, immoral, but he also has an old fascination, that of living on the edge of the known world. The finest pirate stories don't just state piracy is lovely. They suggest instead that sometimes order masks its own brutality, and sometimes chaos shows realities society will not see. This tension is continuously played out in The Curse of the Black Pearl. Port Royal is neat, yet stiff. Tortuga is filthy, yet lively. The Black Pearl is scary, yet it's free. The Royal Navy protects, but hangs. Pirates are treacherous, yet honorable. Jack is saving, but he's lying. Norrington does, but he understands how to bend to a true human. Elizabeth is a decent woman, yet her imagination carries her away. Will wishes to escape the name pirate, but his core identity is linked to this world he looked upon from afar. This is why the film now reduces itself to a basic clash between civilization and piracy. It sees what each planet pays and what each world pays for. Civilization gives security, but it can also smother. Piracy gives movement, but may be devouring. Gold offers power, but may take away zest for life. Love gives direction, yet love demands breaking expectations. Honor offers a straight path, yet to be authentic it must occasionally enter the territory of disobedience. In this architecture, Jack Sparrow is a figure who will not pick one frame. He's from the pirate world, but not Barbossa. A legend, he is, but never too serious for long. He may be a hero, but he hates being hero. He can break an expectation, then pay a debt. He is the clown, the survivor, the strategist, the fugitive, the captain, the issue that nobody knows how to fix. So it's not simply his stride, or his voice, or his gestures, or his phrases that make him unforgettable. It's his part in the plot. Jack's the guy who changes the rules. When he walks into a scenario, nobody can keep doing what they were doing. Will has to rethink his sense of honor. Elizabeth had to rethink her definition of independence. Norrington must revise his view of the law. Barbossa will have to rethink what it means to win. The viewer's notion of the adventure hero, too, must be revised. The film also knows that the spectacular only has strength if it is grounded on consequences. The bombardment on Port Royal, no simple volley of cannon fire. It destroys Elizabeth's reality and awakens the medallion. The forged duel is more than choreography. It's a collision of Will's technical honor and Jack's unplanned survival. The desolate island isn't only comic pause. It shows the gap between Jack's legend and Elizabeth's realistic will. The cave ceremony is not only a wonderful scene, it is about the turn of blood obligation. Barbossa's death isn't just the fall of the villain, it's the closing of an old treachery, and the fantasy of feeling becomes terrible irony. This element describes the enjoyment the film leaves. Everything returns, everything counts. It seems free, even chaotic, yet the architecture is robust. The kidnapping is due to the gold coin. Turner's name leads to the ritual. The single bullet is Barbossa. The black pearl takes Jack. Even falsehoods have their way. Elizabeth lies about her name, and that deception saves her, but puts her in danger. Habitual liar that he is, Jack occasionally tells the truth better than the honest statements of others. And right there in the middle, this beautiful, simple curse, to have without feeling. It is a notion that transcends beyond the world of pirates. Barbossa and his crew got everything, but they can't enjoy anything anymore. They have gold, but no joy. Strength, but not tranquility. Life, no immortality. The film turns their avarice into a sensory nightmare. The penalty isn't merely to be gigantic beneath the moon. The real penalty is to go round the world never getting it. That is what makes Barbossa's apple so powerful. It is nearly as valuable as the whole wealth. This banal fruit is the emblem of all that riches cannot buy. Flavor, finitude, the presence in the world. Barbossa has to sniff an apple to become human. But when he wins that humanity at last, he wins death as well. The movie could not give him a more just conclusion. Confronting him, Jack need not own all. He has to be able to get out. His last win isn't a chest of golds. It's a bridge beneath his feet, a sail overhead, a crew around him, the horizon ahead of him. Barbossa intended to fix the world in possession. Jack wants to keep moving. This is the difference between liberty and greed. In contrast, Will and Elizabeth are the emotional heart of the picture. Without their tale, Jack would be only a bright figure in a strange journey. They add a more traditional yet important heart to the film. Will brings integrity, sacrifice, the weight of the name. Elizabeth offers drive, brains, and the refusal to be put in a box. Their relationship works because it's not separated from the others. It deals with the same issues as the whole film, choosing your life, paying the price of your ambition, resisting the roles assigned. In the end, Will does not win Elizabeth as a prize. He gets a free love, and Elizabeth doesn't pick Will merely because he saved her. She chose him since their trip showed them to themselves without the social mask to shield them. Norrington is kept sacred in this finale. It would have been simple to depict him a foolish hurdle, an arrogant suitor, a blind representative of power. The film offers him greater than that, an honorable loss. He loses Elizabeth, gives Jack a chance, but he's not quite betraying himself. He's still a man of the law, only not as locked up as he was in the beginning. It makes the universe believable. We don't all have to turn pirate to progress. And maybe that's one of the beautiful things about the film. It doesn't pretend that freedom means the same thing to everyone. For Jack, it is on the water. It is an option for Elizabeth. For Will, she's in the restored honor. She's in the power to judge outside the rules for Norrington. She would have been in the return to the corpse for Barbossa, but he gets to her too late. The identical term is repeated throughout the film. Each character pays for it in a different money. The Curse of the Black Pearl also had a legacy since it was able to establish a mythology that was readily readable. The Black Pearl, the medallion, the Aztec riches, Isla de Muerta, Jack's compass, the pirate code, the skeletons under the moon. These have the firm simplicity of great cinematic objects. We comprehend them fast and remember them for a long time. They give the film a visual and narrative identity, just dependent on the plot. But it is not the imagery that sustains a mythology. It's the joy of returning to this planet. To see the movie again is to return to a sea full of mysteries, characters talking with flair, scenes who have maintained their rhythm, an adventure that knows when to make you grin and when shiver. It's also revealing how meticulously the screenplay sets up its payoffs. Behind the seeming lightness is a highly dependable system. It's a celebration, yeah, but a celebration made like a clock. The picture also works because it respects the audience. It does not require him to pick between amusement and comprehension. He has both. The action can be so exciting that you forget the fact that every individual was doomed to a certain kind of personal curse. We may laugh at Jack, then look behind his mythology and see the hurt. You may enjoy the journey, but then realize that the narrative is also about social class, identity, desire, debt and freedom. And that's what makes a great popular film. It invites everyone on the top and reserves the depths for those who want to go down. Lastly, the last impression is one of contrast. The film opens with a toddler hiding a pirate coin to save an unknown boy. It finishes with that youngster turned man, willing to jeopardize his place in the world to free a convicted pirate, and the young lady he loves eventually choosing her own path. And in between, gold has poured, blood has spoken, the dead have walked, ships have burnt, falsehoods have unveiled truths, and a fallen captain has recovered his legend. The circle closes, yet the horizon stays open. It is the characteristic of lasting adventures. They shut enough doors to please, yet leave enough breeze to dream anew. Jack Sparrow retakes the Black Pearl, and with it the peace of the planet that belongs to no one. Not the navy, not the governors, not the cards, not the gallows. The water is still powerless, occasionally immoral, frequently wonderful, but it provides something Port Royal will never be able to offer in its entirety, the potential of becoming something other than determined for you. And thus the movie ended, as it was supposed to, not in a palace, not in a court of law, not in front of a box of gold, but in the water, a dark ship, an unfathomable captain, and that subtle promise that beyond the blue line, somewhere, legends still breathe. Pirates of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Black Pearl is still a terrific adventure movie because it knows the real charm of the genre is not merely hidden jewels or monsters beneath the moon. It's the moment a character finally recognizes their prison and resolves to run toward the exit. Even if the exit is the storm. Elizabeth opts for love and for independence. Will likes honor better than law. Norrington chose to lose with dignity. Barbossa picks life too late, and death catches up with him again and again. Jack picks the horizon, and we, the audience, hold on to that unique feeling that of having started a narrative in which every wave concealed a secret, where every smile could be a trick, where every gold coin had a debt, and where freedom at last tasted of salt, of danger, of legend,